Orange County has a long history of using research to guide practice. In 1999, the chief at the time published research known as the 8% solution, which was the beginning of the research addressing risk factors associated with repeat juvenile justice involvement. Um, that research has evolved over time. We know a lot more about the adolescent brain, trauma, and critical factors um, in juvenile justice. And practitioners continue to rely on research-based methodologies to address and respond to youthful offending. Chief Hernandez is leading a lot of efforts from the first point of contact to the deep end of the youth justice system that are based in research. He will be touching on one example of this continued focus on what works in youth justice. So with that, I'd like to turn to Chief Hernandez.
Thank you, Scott, for that introduction. So yeah, we do embrace the legacy of relying on research here in Orange County, and also both me personally and other assignments. I work closely with the Casey Foundation, and am also just a data guy from long ago as well. So I've personally been very fascinated by data and relying on evidence and whatnot in our decision making. And so that's something that we do take very seriously here. And so I want to start with this one aspect, this one example that we're going to highlight today. If you can go to the next slide. I want to credit our county CEO's office. This OC Cares initiative is something that was led at the county level. And this began some 7 or 8 years ago. And the intent was to get all system partners together to address, identify gaps in our justice system across all systems, including social services, law enforcement, healthcare, and the like, to identify duplicated services or gaps in services, just to align the county as a whole to serve the most needy and highest service utilizing clients in the entire county, both adult and juvenile. And so one of the areas that, and by the way, this process involved community members and system folks across months and months of convenings to help identify what these needs and gaps were. And so one of the areas that was highlighted was prevention. And of course, in probation, we often wring our hands at what we could possibly do with prevention, because of course, by definition, that happens before us. And so oftentimes we can address things that happen once we get a youth referred to us. It is often very frustrating if potential impacts or changes or disproportionality and those kinds of things happen before we get them. So prevention by definition is before probation's involvement, and therefore very difficult for us to impact. But through this process, we identified that a gap or a potential benefit would be enhancing police-based diversion. So pushing the involvement or resources in our community further upstream to help impact referrals of youth to probation in the first place. So what you see on your screen right now is a dashboard that we created recently. There's a difference between recidivism rates and measures. And so this is one way that I can, in real time, this is updated every day, get an indicator of what violation rates or reoffense rates look like as a measure, as something that I can use to help make decisions. And so rather than have a controlled study that lasts for years and then it's old by the time you get that information, this is real-time data that I can look at. And so what you're looking at is non-war, these are non-custody, lower level offenses that are referred to us out of custody by police. And then by statute, probation officers can work with those youth and families to try to keep them out of the system without filing that petition, the application for petition with the district attorney or with the court. So what you're looking at is 1 year reoffense rates for youth that were referred to us out of custody. And so what you're seeing is a progression of within 1 year, 19% of youth that we handled through diversion had another application filed. And then you see that decrease to only 11% had charges actually filed by the DA as a result of that application. And then what might be surprising is only 5% of youth referred to us for diversion had a sustained disposition 1 year post diversion. So if you flip that stat, what that means is 95% of the kids that we had contact with or referred to us for diversion did not have a new sustained offense 1 year post intervention. And so while that might sound wonderful and we should just pack up our bags and go home, we have 95% success rate. What that can also say is maybe there's a percentage of those youth that shouldn't have come to us in the first place. And so that's what gets to this frustration of how do we affect those youth, or how do we prevent youth from even coming to us in the first place? We know that there's evidence that even minor contact with the system, even these youth that are being referred to us for diversion still have to come to a probation building, still have to meet with a probation officer, those kinds of things. And so if we can prevent even those types of interactions, we believe we can likely impact diversion even further. And so we did what we proposed through a Prop 47 grant application was to enhance that police-based diversion, like you heard was identified through our OC Cares initiative. So we can go to the next slide. So as we propose the grant opportunity through Prop 47, in our RFP, or in our grant proposal, which we did receive, by the way, it's $8 million over a 4-year period. We RFP'd for community-based providers to work with police departments to allow for a police officer who encounters a young person for a lower level offense, something they're not going to be detaining this youth for, that they would normally be referring to us out of custody for diversion, for them to be able to have an immediate referral to a community-based organization, to have that immediate intervention without sending that youth referral to probation at all. So it's a true, pushing of the intervention to the front door of the system. And in this proposal, as we were meeting with potential vendors in the community, we use the slide that you're seeing right now in our RFP to identify our top referring cities, top referring law enforcement agencies. And what we were intending to do by sharing this information is we wanted to give preference to providers who could work in those highest referring cities. Again, using that data to help make the biggest impact in our referrals. And so the county currently only has 2 police-based diversion programs, meaning police departments or cities had on their own engaged with a community-based organization to do this kind of work. And so I'm happy to say that the folks in my department who envisioned pursuing this grant for this purpose saw that as a need for replication. We have these 2 police departments who already had very successful diversion programs, and we have 20 other law enforcement agencies in our county that didn't. And so it was a very, ripe opportunity to replicate police-based diversion and hopefully prevent more and more youth from being referred to us in the first place. We can go to the next slide. So I'm happy to share that, again, over a lengthy process, we have identified 3 community-based organizations who will be recommended to our board in just about 3 weeks to get approval to receive this grant award. And the way we designed the grant and the RFP process is this is about 95% CBO, community-based organization run. The only funds that are intended to go to both police and probation are for our referral time, for some reporting requirements and administrative oversight. So the vast amount of the funding is going to fund these 3 community-based organizations to prop up and replicate those police-based diversion programs that again have already shown to be successful. I'm also happy to share that when I went to our police chief meeting and shared this opportunity, about a year ago, I had police chiefs, clamoring over themselves to participate. This is something that is just seen as absolutely mutually beneficial to the youth and the family. Of course, they get the immediate intervention, but also and diversion. But also from the police perspective, they're working with youth that oftentimes they don't get to see the outcome. They'll send their referral in the mail, or sometimes they're hand delivered, and they never know what happened to that case or that youth or family. And here they're able to participate in and be a part of the direct referral for immediate intervention. Another thing that we found through our work with the Casey Foundation in years past is it can take months for one of those police out of custody referrals to get to us, and then months for that intervention to occur. And so we know from adolescent brain development and just lots of other evidence that it's that immediate intervention that is so much more meaningful and also can prevent subsequent behaviors and subsequent applications from coming in if that intervention is immediate. So I'm happy to share that, yes, there are many police departments who are going to participate. They did provide letters of support to those agencies that applied. And so we are very excited to replicate what has been shown to be successful in a couple police departments as widely as possible throughout our entire county, with the intent of reducing referrals to probation and actually saving resources and reallocating resources in the process if we never get those cases to begin with. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Tara.
Yeah, I think I'll take this to Scott.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I wanted to thank our speakers today for the excellent information that they presented. There were a couple questions in the chat I'll touch on just briefly, but don't have time to go deeply. Tamara, you asked a couple questions, and I think you made some good points. The data that I presented in California was arrest data. So part of that is who gets arrested, and we did not go deeply at county level stats on that. But I think, as I concluded, disparities are getting worse. So who gets arrested and that decision, who is policed and what geographies, is a factor. So, and I think that's what you were possibly getting at, and it should be looked at, right? So there was also a question about, it looks like I might be missing a couple, but there was a more recent one about why would probation be involved in diversion youth? I think what Chief Hernandez is saying, he's taking a leadership role actually to not be involved in diversion at the front end, actually. Maybe you could speak to that.
And it's important to note that the Welfare and Institutions Code here in California puts probation between the police and the district attorney in many cases. There's also law that requires the filing of the serious and violent types of offenses with the DA, but many offenses fall to probation for screening prior to filing with the DA. So that's a statutory framework here in California. And I also saw another question about what is police-based diversion. And so that the concept is that a police department, once they have arrested a youth, they send the referral to a community-based organization instead of the probation department. And so if that CBO will identify the needs of that youth and family, address them in the ways that they do, and then if the program or intervention is deemed successful by the community-based organization, that application for petition is never filed. And so we will never see it. We are not involved. We do not get probation does not receive those. And so it would only be should the CBO determine that was not successful, would they push it back to the police department and they could decide whether they wanted to submit it to us or not.
Yeah, so there are a number of comments just generally interested in police referred community-led diversion models, and it is something that it's a priority focus for the Child Welfare Council. It is something that The Office of Youth and Community Restoration is supporting in ways that we can. And we know very clearly from the research that it is a very important and potentially impactful decision point to address racial inequities and disparities in the system. And there's in Daniel Chief Hernandez own backyard, we have the Crossroads study out of UC Irvine that really clearly established that early intervention is very effective for young people. So it's something that it's an area that we can continue to grow. Um, so with that, I think I can turn to Mika to close us out uh, uh, and book in this webinar. So Mika, back to you.
Yes. Hello. I just want to thank the speakers for sharing today and your presentation. It was so insightful. Um, and I want to give some Youth Advisory Board insight and connections. The headlines demonize young people and they're inaccurate. The numbers tell a different story, and sorry. And it's more hopeful one. And we're more than numbers, and we're individuals with our own stories. And with the right support and opportunities, we can flourish and grow. And with that, we can do closing announcements. We welcome you to take the survey to provide feedback on your experience in today's webinar, and the link will be added to the chat. This webinar recording will be available on the OICR website by the end of the week, and the slides will also still be sent in a follow-up email. And you can stay tuned for additional information about next month's webinar, and the time and dates will also be shared in that email. And that concludes today's webinar. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us today.